Brendan, how are you?
Scott, I envy your background. It is super.
Oh, thank you so very much. So very much.
You're a collector, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Fabulous.
Yeah, I've been doing it since, way longer than I should. My wife kills me how much crap I have in so many rooms of the house. So it's really nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I have so much to ask you, but I want to actually start with this. I don't know if anyone's asked you this. The timeline of your career and Tyler Perry's career playing these types of characters is almost parallel.
Yeah.
Did he inspire you? Did you inspire him? Is it just something that's coincidence? Talk a little bit about that.
I think it's coincidental. Mrs. Brown started on the radio as a radio soap back in 1989. So I've been doing it quite a long time. And I wasn't aware of Tyler till, was it Meet the Browns? I saw it was the first thing I saw. Yeah, it was Meet the Browns was the first thing I saw. And I went, oh my God, this is fabulous. This is hilarious. And it was that's 10 years ago. And I remember thinking, God, I'd love to work with that guy someday. And then out of the blue, I get a phone call from my agent who said, this is about 5 years ago then. 5 years later, my agent said, I've got a weird one for you. He said, Tyler Perry wants your number. I said, I'll give it to him. Called me and we talked about personal stuff. First of all, our birthdays are a day apart. And we were both raised by our mom, who had big influence on both of us. We both have a parallel career. And thank God, touch wood, we were both successful at what we do. And we talked about we should do something together. That was 5 years ago. It took 5 years on Netflix to put Mrs. Brown and Madea on the same screen.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Kind of jumping off of that, you being a creative, him being a creative, and each of you kind of having these characters that pretty much shaped your careers.
Yeah.
What was that process like of combining those two worlds together?
It wouldn't have worked. I mean, you've seen both our works. So it wouldn't have worked. When I'm writing for Mrs. Brown, I spread the comedy around between other characters. He does exactly the same. And you need to be a generous writer. First of all, to take pressure off yourself. And also to keep the comedy flowing. That even when you're not on screen, there's somebody on screen who's been funny. So I don't think if we hadn't both been generous writers, I don't think it would have worked. But when we decided to do this together, he said, look, I'm going to write the plot. You write Mrs. Brown. Because he said, I don't know what Mrs. Brown would do in that situation. You do. And I wouldn't write Madea because I wouldn't know what Madea would say or do in the situation. And we did that. We put the skeleton of the script together and I put in Mrs. Brown's dialogue and bada bing. And it worked. And the rule was, if I'm on a riff, he let me at it. He just leave me go. Same thing here. When I knew he was on a riff, I'd let him go because Madea is hilarious when she goes off book, as is Agnes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the two of you were a match made in heaven, and both of you managed to kind of say inappropriate things, yet very important things at the same time.
Well, you know what? We've often talked about that, both individually in our own careers and also in this movie. Agnes Brown does things that nobody else would get away with except Agnes Brown. And Madea is exactly the same. So we ended up with things like, get your knickers in a bunch. That nobody would get away with that except Agnes and Madea. Nobody would. And because it's not done tongue in cheek. It's done in all innocence and it works. So we were very, very lucky that we both had the same psyche coming to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Lovely talking to you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks very much. And listen, keep up that collection. I love that wall.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers, Scott.
Bye.